Welcome back to GBC for Exodus chapter 6. What happens?
What happens? A very short episode again with
Again?
with an ad.
With an with an ad, that's very true.
Not YouTube ads. It's like in the Bibles.
Imagine there's a YouTube ad that pops up now.
Sure. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, but we'll get to that part. Stay tuned.
So anyway, Moses just vented at with the Lord in the end of chapter 5, where he said, "Why have you sent me these people? They have made it worse, and now the work is worse." And then God responds saying, "Say this to Pharaoh, that I appeared to you as Yahweh, and I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai," which is translated as God Almighty.
That's what Al Shaddai means.
Yeah, God Almighty. I love the name El Shaddai. It just sounds so cool.
It sounds cool, yeah.
It's very cool. I think El means God and Shaddai is Almighty, if I have it correct. And together it's El Shaddai. He reminds Moses to say this to Pharaoh, "I am Yahweh," it's Lord in capital letters, "and I'm going to bring my people into the promised land of Canaan." He makes it clear, this is my goal, this is why I want my people to go. And he will redeem them, and if he does not let them go, he will bring great acts of judgment with an outstretched arm. This is referencing the plagues.
Oh.
And it's happening, the first plague is in the very next chapter.
Chop chop, ons gaan na die volgende hoofstuk.
So it's like rising action, like in a movie.
Yes.
The tensions are rising, the stakes are rising. It's building up towards the action scene.
Chopping the steaks with the axe.
So he says that he will bring them away from the burden of the Egyptians, so away from slavery, in other words.
Yeah.
I believe Egypt means house of slavery. I heard that somewhere. So that's quite a cool way to see it.
We'll just have to fact check, but if it is, it's interesting. All the names are related and play an important role.
That's very true. The names in the Bible usually mean something. When there's somebody's name or a name of a place, you should look up what it actually means.
What does Anthony mean?
Unique. What does your name mean?
Power of God.
Nice. Unique power of God. My dad's name, Wayne, means wagon maker.
Wagon maker.
So my full name, Anthony Wayne Steele, means unique wagon maker of steel. Which is quite
Nice.
funny.
Yeah.
But it's quite cool. But anyway, God says that he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he will bring his descendants back to this land. Remember, they had to travel to Egypt because of the famine. Then they got enough food, and then they were enslaved there for hundreds of years. And Moses went to speak this with Pharaoh, and he made an excuse and said, "Why would Pharaoh listen to me?"
Wait, what was it? The people that came with Joseph, and then they were enslaved after that.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, so remember Joseph was sold into
Yes.
slavery. And
So if you watch the two movies, you watch Joseph and then you watch
Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt, basically, which is the sequel.
Oh, that's true. And it's the same people who made it.
It's a sequel after.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
What?
If you don't know the story of Joseph, it's quite a cool story. It's, I believe, from Genesis 36 to 50. So quite a big chunk of Genesis.
Yeah.
And that tells the story of how he was sold into slavery, and God gave him dreams, and he was sold into slavery by his brothers. His oldest brother didn't want that to happen, and he was taken away, and eventually he had a dream to counter the famine that was approaching for 7 years.
Yes, because of his dreams, the dreams that God gave him.
Yeah. And after the dreams, he implemented the plans. And then at the beginning of Exodus, it says this Pharaoh forgot all about Joseph. The fact that he actually saved Egypt and the entire world.
Sure.
That actually gives it quite a nice background.
It does actually. Now, it feels like it's linking everything much better. Because I thought the movies Prince of Egypt and Joseph was just unrelated.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. But it's prequels and sequels.
Yeah. So the great thing is that gives you a good background on how they got to Egypt and how they need to go back to the promised land. I love how it all links, and Moses makes excuses again, thinking, I can't speak to Pharaoh, why would he listen to me?
Aaron, speak for me.
And just when you think, okay, what's Pharaoh gonna say? Genealogy. And it
Yes,
goes
the
on for
ads.
quite a bit, like this long. If you look here in this ESV Bible,
How many verses is
verses
it?
14 to 25, that's about 12 verses or 11 verses.
And that's almost 50% of the chapter, guys.
That's really funny, but the thing that my mom told me is usually when you look at a genealogy, it can become very boring because it says this one was the son of that, was the son of that.
Especially when you start reading the Bible from
Genesis.
yeah,
That's very true.
it's like what? Okay, heaven and earth was made, and what am I reading now?
And then
It's just
Genesis 5 is
names.
like, these guys lived for a really long time. Now you're making me in a mood to do Genesis.
We're going on tangents here.
But anyway, this is supposed to be like
This is a tangent episode. It's
we're
supposed to be
branching
very
off,
quick.
so now we're coming back to the timeline. But these people, if you look up their names, this is actually quite a cool study you can do. I
Yeah.
can't remember what everyone's names mean, but you can look up what does Reuben mean, what does Israel mean, what does Hanoch mean, Palu, Hezron, and so forth and so forth. Then you can have some very interesting conversations about just what their name means, and that automatically makes a genealogy more fascinating, more interesting if you actually know what the
Yes.
names mean. But this genealogy is here to give the story credibility.
That's nice.
This was their way of a family tree, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's which these days is very difficult to obtain, to know what was a family tree, because this person changes their surname,
Oh, that's true.
or they were enslaved, so then they were given names, and etc. etc. So that is very nice to actually look at it when it's drawn out in a family tree.
Yeah. And back then they didn't really have surnames, so it was Moses, son of Amram, and then Amram was the son of this, was the son of this. And it would go on like that, and this would give the people the background of, oh, okay, so it's those people. And verses 26, it says, these are the Aaron and Moses. It's that Aaron and Moses that led the people out.
Wow. Okay, so it's these guys.
So it was giving them the credibility, that quick ad. And it's like that quick ad that people on YouTube read. They have this whole conversation like, a quick word from our sponsor. And
Perfect way to segue.
and from there it says, verse 27, it was they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, about bringing out the people of Israel from Egypt, this Moses and Aaron. On a day when the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, the Lord said to Moses, I am the Lord, tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, what I say to you. And Moses made the excuse, why would Pharaoh listen to me? And that conversation is in around about verses 10 to 13. So it's kind of repeated, but maybe it's just refreshing our memory of, okay, after the ad break or the genealogy lesson.
As they do when you had television.
Yeah. Previously on.
Yeah, it irritated me so much.
Or when you're back at something, they play the last 10 seconds so that you don't get confused.
As if I have forgotten. Yeah.
So this kind of feels like that's what the Bible did here, and that's chapter 6.